I'll start this video by addressing the big elephant in the room, and that is the racial issue in the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier, more specifically during episode 5 and eventually in episode 6. Because it all starts with Sam giving away the shield, then it'd been given to this new Captain America named John Walker, to finally Sam accepting it in the end. Only if the writers of the show came up with something which would not end up barefacedly retconning Sam accepting the shield from Captain America himself in Endgame. But here we are, and the plot of the episode 5 and episode 6 is where things get very ugly. As we all remember, Sam was chosen by Captain America himself back in Endgame, and yet Isaiah says this in episode 5.
They will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
Which completely ruins the moment of Steve passing the shield to Sam. He was the only one to be given such honor. Not even Bucky, Steve's friend for the last 70 years, had such privilege. And no one, absolutely no one, complained or criticized Sam being given the shield and carrying on Steve's legacy as the new Captain America because he was black back in Avengers Endgame. Sam was a respected US soldier, continued to do missions for the US Army, helped soldiers struggling with PTSD to recover. He was an Avenger for years, and he's praised by the people. So why is it that Sam being black makes him becoming the new Captain America such a big deal when he was already all that and his race was never brought up until now? Really makes me think. However, by the end of episode 5 this happens.
When Steve told me what he was planning, I don't think either of us really understood what it felt like for the black man to be handed the shield.
Making Sam accepting the shield because of his race, thus becoming the first black Captain America, undermines Steve's wish in Endgame as well. He was chosen because he was Steve's friend. He trusted Sam. So basically Sam is coming to terms with being Captain America's successor, not because of their friendship and how Steve trusted Sam to the point of giving him the shield like it was shown in Endgame, but because Sam is going to be the first black Captain America. I love how Sam accepting himself as a black man with Captain America's shield is more relevant than his friendship with Steve Rogers. Still in episode 5, there's a moment when Sam says that the legacy of the shield is complicated. That shield was wielded by a man who was embodiment of duty, values, honor, and sacrifice, who literally fought Nazis and Hydra. There is no complication about the shield's legacy because the shield's legacy is also Steve's legacy. And Steve is one of the most righteous characters in the MCU, if not the most righteous character. To make the shield's legacy being connected to racism in the past is undermining Steve's character as well. Because instead of wielding this unique weapon back in the day to fight Nazism and then Hydra, which then became assembled to do the victories he achieved, not only in World War II but also as an Avenger, the shield Captain America used to do all that was secretly connected to past racist ideals, which ends up soiling Captain America's legacy. After all those years and all those movies, completely dishonored just like that. Then Bucky apologizes to Sam because both him and Steve had no idea about what it meant for a black man to handle the shield. Why is a man who was tortured, brainwashed, and turned into an assassin for decades apologizing to Sam? Bucky's life was a living hell for a very long time, doing horrible things because he was brainwashed into doing them. Now he's left with his friend Steve gone, basically alone in a world he's not entirely acquainted with nightmares and no purpose in life like it was shown back in episode 1. So why is a man who went through all that apologizing to Sam while Sam has a subtle identity as the Falcon? He is an Avenger, he has a job, a family, his life is on the tracks, and has people who admire him. Because Bucky and Steve failed to understand racism? Bucky's life was a chaotic turmoil ever since he was found by Hydra. Why are you making this character apologize after going through this hell for decades? Reminder that Bucky, just like Steve, also fought Nazis and Hydra. This dumb show. But don't worry, it gets way worse, because now we have episode 6 of this clown show. As if the dialogue at the end of episode 5 wasn't enough, we had this.
I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes. What don't I understand? Every time I pick this thing up, I know there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it. Even now, here. I feel it. The stares, the judgment. And there's nothing I can do to change it.
No one ever criticized or hated Sam's character for him being black. All I remember when Endgame was a thing was how people were excited to dive into this new chapter of the MCU with Sam continuing Steve's legacy as a new Captain America. This is simply the screenwriters creating problems to justify Sam taking the shield in order to create a conflict to push the plot forward, while also ignoring Sam's characterization for all those years in the MCU.
Every time I pick this thing up, I know there are millions of people out there who are going to hate me for it.
He's been an Avenger for years, and yet no one ever hated him for being black, not even when he became a US soldier and a counselor. Why would people start hating him precisely just now when he became Captain America, when he's been all that for years and no one said nothing?
Is it because social politics is more popular than ever and it's actually very monetizable? Or is it because they actually want to do something good and positive? I wonder which one.
So more about that. Isaiah says that the US government wiped out his existence because he was a black man. They arrested him and did experiments on him to know why the serum had worked. This was based on some experiments the American government did on African Americans a few decades ago. Disney has been completely silent about ethnic and religious minority groups being kept in concentration camps in a certain country. It really makes me think. Isaiah proceeds with his story saying that the US government never apologized or gave any credits for his deeds despite him being a super soldier. Except that this is not true in the MCU at all. There are other black characters in the MCU who did great achievements and find themselves in important strategic positions and were rightfully recognized for their deeds. Yes, I'm talking about Rhodey and Nick Fury, other than Sam of course. Let's start with Rhodey. He was nationally announced as the Iron Patriot. The President of the United States recruited him to fight Mandarin's attacks. He saved the American president. He was given a promotion, was awarded a medal for his deeds. Rhodey served as an intermediary between Stark Industries and the US Army, while Nick Fury was the founder of the Avengers, who started the mission to team up and bring everyone together. That puts him in a very relevant position in an international political and strategic scenario as the head of a team comprised of unique and powerful people whose mission is to save Earth and for knowing the world's greatest secrets. Plus, Samuel L. Jackson makes his character look cool as heck. So these two characters, other than Sam, prove that what Isaiah said is wrong and how Isaiah's dialogue with Sam in episode 5 contradicts and disregards everything those characters were and did throughout the MCU movies. Though some people say that all these things when it comes to these two specific characters are not enough because they're not reverenced or seen at the same level as Captain America, or that they aren't seen as national icons like Steve, or that Nick Fury lives in the shadows, or why War Machine is a faceless hero, hence why Sam publicly becoming the first black Captain America is great. In my personal opinion, it feels like to say those things about Rhodey and Fury is to undermine them for not being on the same level as Captain America, because 1, those two characters were key relevant characters in essential moments throughout the MCU and had a relevant role to play in their own respective ways, and 2, Captain America is a unique character in the MCU. He's the first Avenger who had been through unique events in his life, which opened up a path for all these other characters to become heroes when their time came. So to compare any other character to Steve Rogers and to say that these other characters are not as praised, admired, or whatever because of that is quite unfair to say the least. Plus, there is a reason why Captain America is praised and looked up the way he is, and it is not because he's white. The love and praise for Captain America come from mostly 2 reasons. First, because he was advertised as heck by the American government during World War II after he took the super soldier serum. Propaganda was a great strategic weapon in times of war. It was used a lot by both the United States and Nazi Germany in the 1940s. So the US government had reasons to use Steve Rogers as a new propaganda guy for America in times of war against the Nazis. The people loved him, this tall, strong, and patriotic man. Wow, he's gonna save America, he's gonna fight for our country and defeat the Nazis, it's gonna be all great. The government had to lift up the patriotic spirit of the people and inspire the US troops abroad, and Captain America was their means to reach that end. And the government also used Captain America in order to promote war bonds for military production, and also to show the world how America was doing great militarily speaking, especially to their enemies. But here comes reason number 2, because Steve Rogers proved his worth on the battlefield. He had the same bravery and sense of duty that made him be chosen to be the serum experiment despite his initial physical conditions back in the training camp. He wasn't just a strong, handsome man used in advertisements, memorizing lines and punching fake Hitlers. He was indeed a dutiful, respected, and patriotic man. He became the embodiment of all these values of honor, patriotism, sacrifice, and duty. He was a man with a heart of gold, fighting side by side with the other soldiers, never letting his strength or resilience make him that he is better than the others, but always putting other people's needs before his own. Steve Rogers was advertised as a great soldier, but he was a great soldier because he was a great man first. So those are some of the reasons why Captain America is unique, therefore he gets all this praise from the fans. He is the first American citizen to undergo the super soldier serum experiment and who fought in one of the greatest wars that changed mankind forever, World War II. It has nothing to do with the whiteness, but because Captain America is a good man who fought for the sake of something greater than his own life. However, Isaiah says things like blonde hair, blue eyes, stars and stripes, and that white man's shield. This is so messed up because what Isaiah says is simply reducing Captain America and what he has represented in 10 years of MCU to merely him being white and not someone who fought against the Nazis in one of the most decisive wars in the history of humanity and made a huge sacrifice by the end of the first Avenger. If the US government back in the 1940s truly wanted to use Captain America to promote a specific white America in times of World War II, like it is implied by Isaiah in his conversation with Sam, then why even bother to try to find someone with a sense of duty, honor, and patriotism like they found in Steve Rogers despite his physical conditions? Why simply not choose that other soldier who bullied Steve instead, given that he was also white and had blonde hair and blue eyes and was more physically fit for the task? Is it because Captain America was indeed supposed to represent the whiteness of America from the very beginning, or was he supposed to represent aspects of the human nature that are far more noble and transcends other aspects such as one's race or skin color? What Isaiah says about the shield is not only the complete opposite of the truth of the facts shown in a decade of Marvel movies, but also undermines the legacy of one of the most beloved Marvel characters ever. So yeah, I think it's very unfair to undermine what Rhodey and Fury did because of they're not national icons like Captain America is crap. Because Captain America has this entire story involving a real-life war, being the first successful experiment of a super soldier serum and a war hero who went missing for decades, frozen in deep ice. What Captain America went through is unique. No wonder why they dedicated an entire museum segment to him. But if you're upset that these other characters don't have a museum of their own, remember that Natasha didn't have a proper funeral service for her in Endgame. That was messed up. He was part of a historical moment for America and the world, and most MCU characters weren't even born by the time World War II happened. And again, to claim that Captain America is getting all this praise just because he was white or represents whiteness is undermining his legacy and what he went through. Plus, he is the first Avenger. He's the one who, although turned into what he is decades ago, will end up being the first member of what Nick Fury visualized as the Avengers. So this is how Falcon and the Winter Soldier failed the MCU and Captain America as well. This show goes against and contradicts what was established in 10 years of Marvel movies. Other characters' achievements and roles are plainly ignored or considered as irrelevant for the sake of praising Sam becoming the first black Captain America. The shield is now problematic due to its associations to racism in the past, even though it was made so Steve could fight the literal Nazis, and the main reason why Sam accepts the shield in the end has to do with his race, and not with him being trusted by Captain America himself to take on his mantle and protect mankind with his shield. They are disregarding everything for the sake of identity politics. Anyway, there are other things too, because boy oh boy, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is one heck of a flawed show. We are then introduced to the character of Karli. She is the leader of the Flag Smashers terrorist organization that wants to make the world return to what it used to be before the snap was reversed. What? Anyway, I really hated how the show wants me to see Karli as a complex, deep character, because she's doing bad things, but it's because she suffered a lot, so she has reasons, and the world just failed her. There she is being nice to little kids, crying because a loved one died, which made me feel absolutely nothing because this psycho is a mass murder terrorist.
There were still people in there.
This is the only language these people understand.
Oh yes, the girl with the innocent look in her eyes. It would be such a shame she actually turned out to be a crazy cold-blooded murderer.
It's the only language these people understand.
Stop trying to make me sympathize with a terrorist. It's never going to happen. But don't worry, because it gets way worse. So in episode 4, we have some very lame scenes of Sam defending Karli. He says that she's just a kid and different from what they thought before. Yeah, she just willingly killed innocent people for her stupid goals. One of the victims was revealed to be a father of 2, by the way. But she is just a kid. Wow, Sam, good job. He also compares her to the soldiers struggling with PTSD he counseled back in DC. Only that it makes absolutely no sense. She used her free will to kill innocent people. She eventually calls Sam's sister and threatens to kill her brother. When confronted about that, Karli responds by saying that she wanted to know him better. By threatening the life of Sarah's brother. Wow, what a complex, relatable villain. Then we have this boring dialogue between Karli and the Flag Smasher member, and he says that he didn't believe there were people like Captain America in this world anymore until he found Karli. Let's compare the most righteous character with this cold-blooded murderer, but could possibly go wrong. That's some very messed up writing right over here, and I hate it. So Karli is shot by Sharon, and I love it how there's this emotional music playing in the background, like how the screenwriters wanted us to see how emotional this moment was. The dead body of this poor girl who just wanted to make the world a better place in Sam's arms, this angel-like figure with his wings and stuff under this sublime light, illuminating them in the middle of this dark night and chaos. She was a terrorist who willingly killed people. One of her victims had kids. I'm not gonna cry because this disgusting terrorist died. I think I'm gonna be just fine. At some point in episode 4, the Wakandian soldiers are back because Zemo is out of prison helping Bucky and Sam stop the Flag Smashers. We have this dumb fight scene and 2 messed up things happened. One, they were there to arrest Zemo, but John Walker touched Ayo's shoulder, who makes a huge deal of that, and now they all start this useless fight. And while they were uselessly spinning their spears to make the fight scenes look cool, while simultaneously giving John Walker and Hoskins enough time to conveniently avoid certain death by getting impaled, Zemo ended up running away unnoticed. Wow, girls, good job. And 2, Bucky eventually steps in to try to make them stop, but then Ayo detaches Bucky's arm, which is so messed up. They were the ones who started this useless fight, which allows Zemo to run away. Not even to mention that John Walker and Hoskins are US soldiers. Judging by the way they were fighting to kill. What could have happened, diplomatically speaking, if 2 American soldiers, one of them being the new Captain America by the way, got killed by the Dora Milaje? If they got killed, it would pretty much culminate in sanctions and more diplomatic issues for both America and Wakanda, which leads me to believe that it would only make things harder for them on their quest to arrest Zemo. So those Wakandian soldiers would probably end up making things worse than they already were. And then when Bucky's trying to make them reason and to stop fighting, that's how Ayo reacts, by removing his vibranium arm. Plus, I am annoyed by how Bucky just stood there and let Ayo do that to his arm. He's fighting, but then he stops struggling as she does this thing to his arm. Don't stand there doing nothing, use your other arm to try to stop her. Speaking of Captain America, John Walker is kind of a complicated character. I personally couldn't care less about him at first. I know the show is trying to make me understand what kind of man he is when the show gave us this scene during a TV show interview to make us understand where he came from. The soldier who wasn't just physically fit to take the shield, but also morally. He has been awarded, been given medals, saved people in current terrorist missions. He jumped on top of a grenade not once, but 4 freaking times. He's done everything Steve Rogers did, but bigger. But his still couldn't care less about him for a reasonable part of the show. But then he gets his redemption in the final episode, and I was surprised that I found him more likable by the end of the show than the 2 main characters the MCU and Disney Plus originally wanted me to like. Zemo was the best part of the show in my opinion. He recognizes Karli as the terrorist she is, while Sam keeps babbling about Karli being a poor misunderstood victim. He destroys the serums to prevent more super soldiers like Karli and her minions from being created in the future, and kills the men who had recreated the serum formula. And his characterization seems to be the only one to keep sort of consistent with what has been seen before. So these are my thoughts on the show. After the letdown there was WandaVision. Falcon and Winter Soldier also ends up being a huge disappointment for reasons I already explained. It achieves nothing, but just undermines what was settled in 10 years of the MCU, and resulted in more division between the MCU fans, between those who liked it and those who disliked it. I've seen people being accused of racism for disliking the show. That's how messed up this whole thing was. Just stop this madness. To claim that someone dislikes an entire race because the person is talking about legit problems with the writing of the show is pure insanity. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a combination of retconning with identity politics, and the results couldn't be more disastrous. What could have been a good funny show ended up being a mess, and whatever hype I ever had for this new MCU phase is over now.